Hey everyone, this is Dr. Lucien, and this is the review video. I guess it's part 5 for week 6. Apologize for getting this done a little bit later. I had some other stuff I had to get done. So, first I want to go over course performance so far, and I split it up by undergrads and grads. This is a slash class, 43, 683, 43 undergrads, 683 grads, obviously. So each week, I score your stuff and I track that, but I also track how much time you're spending on Canvas and how many items in the Canvas shell you're touching per week. And I run some studies on that just to see what people are doing. So as you can see for the undergrads, you can see that the average and median times are below the grad students. The max is higher. That's interesting. But the minimum is really low. So that's not good. An average of an hour of a week per week. And this is out of 100, this is out of 100, but obviously an hour is 60 minutes. So somebody's spending under an hour per week on average. The average touches, grad students are doing considerably more. We have someone who's averaging about 200 touches per week. Low is 75, low is 31 here, which isn't... it's not great, but it's not super terrible. For the average scores on assignments, the grad students are doing very well. The undergrads not so well. We have someone who probably has been skipping some assignments. That's the only reason I can see that being as low as it is. For the quizzes, not too much of a difference. The grad students are just doing slightly better, but I think if I was to run a study on that, it's pretty much the same. And then as far as grades go, I mean, obviously we've seen the trends. The average for the undergrad class is a B, with the median being about an A minus. And we have someone who's not doing too well. I've been reaching out to them both through Canvas and through email. They haven't been getting back to me. I'll keep trying. Problem is they're not the ones who are going to be watching this video. The grad students are doing very well. We have one that's in a B range, but I believe there's a missing assignment that contributed to that. So doing very well. Thank you, grad students. So here's my corollary studies. These are very simple. I do Pearson correlation between different elements. Now, as far as grades to everything, I guess touch and assignment and quiz all scored significantly above the 0.01. Nothing correlated significantly with time. That's because I think we have some extremes in there, and that may have drawn it off a little bit. Also, it's a small sample size, so it's difficult to get significance. But the number of touches in grade did have it was significant, but not great. Touch and quiz had even an higher. I thought that was kind of interesting. So I decided to graph the grades versus touch and the grades versus time. As you can see, the touch is a little bit better, though the R-square value is not where it needs to be. You really want it to be 0.7, 0.8. 0.7 is what the research says. 0.8 is what I try to say. But we've got one that's keeping it really down, but we've got some people who are doing very well, even though they're in the lower quadrants when it comes to touches. And for time, we got something similar. But again, it's a small sample size, but I think it becomes more pronounced as we get into the more sophisticated projects. So here's my comments on the memo writing assignment. And I did take quite a bit of time to read all these to try to give you all some feedback. Hopefully it helps you improve. So as far as scores, I did hold the whole class. I didn't separate it by grad and undergrad. I do look at the plagiarism, and if you get above like 35, I do look to see. But I didn't find any evidence of plagiarism. I didn't find any evidence of use of AI or anything. So first, the average was a 90, an A minus. Median was an A. Max was 100. Low was half, an F. As far as the breakdown goes, people had the most trouble with the planning document. I was very generous with grading that. Some of you didn't do it really. It was very, very modified. So here's my 2 pieces of advice, and this goes into the executive summary you have to write for this week, which I'll talk about at the end. Read the instructions. I don't know how many, but I gave several perfect scores because you guys just did it perfectly. I mean, I provided an example. I said what I wanted. You guys did it. So read the instructions and show your work. I want you to demonstrate to me that you're thinking through a process, and then you're allowing that to, kind of guide your writing. And I prefer it if you reference materials from the course and not just Google search things. That's why I want you to read it. You guys are summarizing them each week. So, yeah, the beginning of the memos were better than the results. Language use was kind of middle ground. And it's just not that much, so it doesn't. So read the instructions, show your work. So for this week, we've got the lecture videos and whatever, but I provided you with 3 study sheets. This is meant to help prepare you for the quiz this week. You actually have to solve problems this week. And if you haven't been following along or anything, if we're in the classroom, we work through these, but you guys are online. So these are going to be your 3 greatest friends. Read an article here. The writing assignment, I'm going to go over some of the elements here in just a moment, but here's the assignment you need to read, the instructions. Here's the report you need to read and review and pull out the information to write your executive summary. Here is the data analysis. I covered it in week 3, but you don't have to do any analysis. I did it all for you, but if you want to create your own tables or look at it, you can. Here's an example, but don't copy it. Here's an example of a submission. Then you upload it right here. So it's going to be a cover page. It's going to be a 2-page executive summary. And then it's going to be your planning document, how you thought things through and the message you want to send to management. Provided some additional links here to help you if you've never written executive summary before. And then I've got other stuff here. Here's a planning document. And then the quiz this week is different. Definitely, put in the work to prepare for it. During the quiz, you need some data tables. And if they don't show up on the screen for you, make sure you open up this document here because I copied and pasted them to a Word document so that you could actually see them. Okay? 10 questions, just like it always is. Binder assignment is easier this week. Yeah, because it's just basically the summary of the videos and read this. The quiz requires analysis and comparison to BLS. So make sure you are comfortable with going to those reports. And finally, you're writing an executive summary to persuade management. So here's the assignment description. Make sure you read that and understand it. What the purpose. So it says 1 page, but I'm giving you 2 pages. I also want you to include figures and tables, because it's a big deal when you can actually show important figures and tables to convince someone of what you're talking about. And that's another thing too. Some of you, the memo, you didn't even really refer to the data. The data was the main point. Using it as this is what happened, and now this is what I think you should do. And so basically similar thing, but now you're writing 2 pages maximum. Okay? So cover page, executive summary, 2 pages max. Now, again, executive summary is not a memo. Some of you are going to turn in a memo format, and I don't know why. I don't understand. Read the instructions. It's an executive summary. You have links where you can read about what it is. It's a 2-pager. Executive summary at the top and the center as a subheader. A paragraph introduces it. A figure of what was found. Explain it. Some more explanation. Another figure. And then convince management to change their ways, to invest in the safety program. That's what it's all about. And make sure your planning document demonstrates what you're going to try and say. A lot of you haven't written that way before, and I think it's important that I think a lot of things I do, 80% of the time and effort goes into planning, and then you just execute. Execution's only 20%. Yep. So what I'd like to share with you, and this is older. I was going to prepare a new one, but man, I haven't had time to do it yet, and I will come back around and provide an updated version of this. So, for the full year 2023 and the first few months of 2024, I was a safety manager, a part-time safety manager for a company out of Madison. And as of September, so this is basically halfway through my tenure there, Here's the monthly and quarterly metrics I presented to management. So monthly to the plant managers and operations team, quarterly to corporate. So I created a leading and lagging set of metrics to kind of drive, and I'd given them early in the year my, I gave them some of my literature that I used from this class. I basically, everything I teach in this class, I practiced here to see if it would work. And I haven't fully implemented all lessons into this other than, the work comp project is definitely, I've upgraded it. But when it comes to the OSHA record keeping and things like that, I probably have more to say about it. But I'll save that for some kind of the less serious lectures while we're working on the project. So safety observations and concerns were my number one leading. And as you can see per month, I got like 41. I've got a total of 350 for the year. The previous year, they only had 158. And so one of my objectives was to engage the workers and get them to report things to me. And then I try to fix them if I could. But my corrections were not as good as I had hoped. I'm already above what they did in 2022, but I'm only there part-time, 1 to 2 days per week. So I did what I could. Safety training, I was not keeping up. I did some, and they were really happy with it, but fell behind. My JHAs were non-existent. I did a few informals, but never was able to kick off that program. So you're thinking, well, if you didn't do the training and you didn't have JHAs, you must have horrible injury data. I also was able to complete a worker perception survey and gave us great insights. So my lagging, this is what people, companies typically report out and talk about and drives their safety program. And my goal was to improve it by 20% year over year, which is a very aggressive goal. The number of OSHA recordables, didn't have any that month. The target is less than 13 per year. Didn't have any the prior month before that. In 2023, I have had 6 so far. They had 16 total in 2022. My number of DART cases, didn't have any this month. My target is less than 9 per year. 13 and 9, that's a 20% improvement over 2022. None the previous month, 3 total versus the 11. I started counting first aid cases. They didn't do that. I'm using the number of first aid cases as sort of a proxy for we're not under reporting recordables because we're getting things that aren't even recordable. Sorry, things that aren't recordable. So I used first aid cases. And educated in people what it was, and I changed the overall reporting system so it would capture more data, and it was easier to fill out. So I had 5 this month. I had 10 the prior month. It says I'm trying to keep it under 42, but the thing is, I'm trying to get as many as possible. So this is kind of a misnomer. I have 46 on the year. They had 53 the year before, so I'm well ahead of that trend. I then used ratios. It's from this class. I talked about ratios. My first ratio was safety observations to DART cases. I have an aggressive 20-to-1 ratio for this. As you can see, I'm doing pretty well. I've basically got 100-to-1. Last year, the year before, they had about a 15-to-1. First aid cases to DART cases was my other ratio. I was shooting for a 10-to-1. Doing very well. I've got like a 12 or 13-to-1 here, and they were 8-to-1 the previous year. My total case incidence rate is, for the year, is 4.8. My goal is under 9, excuse me. The DART incidence rate, my goal is under 6. I'm at a 2.4. So far, everything's on track. Why is it on track? My observations, concerns, and getting people to report and engage. The data here shows that's what I set out to do. That's what I'm doing. It appears to be working. I did something better than the 300 log. These reports were provided to my boss so she could take it to corporate. She loved this because what it required me to do, I have the date, I have the shift, I have the injury report, the body part, the work they were doing, the status of the report, and then I have a summary and response. So this is my biggest complaint with the 300. It's just not enough. So I explained what was reported and what I did. So none of these were filled out. No reports were filled out until I was able to talk to the worker, talk to the supervisor, do my analysis. So everything was followed up, not just recordables, everything. Do you see the value in that? I had a lot more information in which to, prioritize, triage, and focus on what I wanted to fix. Here's a comparison of previous years. By the way, I had to rework all these numbers because they were using the wrong work hours and they were pulling from the wrong system. So I corrected all that. 2 years prior, their TRIR was about 12, which is high. I'm currently at a 4.8. 2 years prior for DART was about 8.3 average, rolling average. I'm at a 2.4. The severity rate, which I think is a ridiculous metric, but they'd been using it, and so I said I would. I'm at virtually nothing. I had a 3.41 month. And then as far as the days away from work incidence rate, I don't think that's a real thing. Again, it's just showing nothing. Here are the recordable type stuff side by side. You can see that mine are doing very well. OSHA recordables are low. But the thing is, I've got a 1-to-1 ratio. They've really never had that. And I really pushed hard to try to get more of the non-severe things to be reported, and obviously the observations, and it's driving things down. And that kind of goes with what, Revit had said, not so much what Manuel had said, kind of what Heinrich had said. I'm referring to stuff we read in the class, you guys. As far as OSHA recordables here, I think this is sort of a repeat of the last one. I've got recordable by cause. I've got my status. So here's the interesting thing. 6 OSHA recordables. So if we only focus on OSHA recordables, we only investigate those, we only try to correct them, I'd have 6 things. But I've got 67 other reports that allowed me to go out, do investigations, and use it to correct things. 6, let's add it in, 6 to 73. Would you rather have 73 data points or observations to drive what you're going to fix, or would you rather have 6? Okay. As far as a breakdown, I did a Pareto ratio here. I've got my top 6 causal factors. My top 3 locations account for 80% of all of my reports. So that's where I spend most of my time. And the supervisors know that, and the engineers know that, so they look it out. And the maintenance people now know that, so they keep an eye on it for me too. So they were reporting stuff to me and taking pictures for me when I wasn't there. I was doing the best I could with the time I had. I was more or less I'm educating. That's what I'm doing here. Educating management, engineers, line supervisors, maintenance, operations, everybody. So I've got my breakdown of type of reports, the shift it occurred, the location, and here's cause. You can't hide. I'm really laying it all out there. And this is my trend on blue is the observations, green is the corrections. So in February, that's when I got my feet underneath me and I completed my initial analysis. I said, I'm going to engage workers. I'm going to increase their reports. And by doing so and chasing more things that they're observing, it should get less recordables or less severe injuries. So as you can see, I've increased things dramatically. I had very aggressive goals. I was driving this. Look at this, a 300% increase in reports and corrections. That is where the corrections came from. Now, I do have a higher list of things that are still open, but I always kind of said, well, next month maybe I'll have more time. So I always reset on a monthly basis my priorities and what I want to do and where I want to do them based on the results. And some of these things I had already completed by the time we got to the meeting. So that's a summary of a monthly report out that I had in my part-time job last year. I am no longer working there. I just actually got an email saying we took you out of the system. Tried to sign into my email and it wasn't there, but I haven't been there I've been there once since July. I was going to work on some projects, but got busy with Whitewater. So anyway, let's look ahead here quick. We're already at 20 minutes. Next week is the midterm exam, and it's challenging. It's 25 questions, 25 points, but it's going to require you to solve problems and answer multiple choice questions. And so in the videos, I believe I talk about it. And we'll also be starting workers' compensation, which I think that's what we've been building up to. I love work comp data so much more than OSHA recordable data because OSHA recordable data has so many issues. Incidence rates have so many issues. Work comp tends to be a much richer data set. And there's money involved. And that's what we're trying to do is convince management. So Jim Jones works for United Heartland. He's awesome. And he has been sort of the one who talks about it. So this is what he's done for 20 some years. So he knows a lot about work comp. So it'll be the same sort of thing as far as taking notes and looking at these links, but then there's the midterm, so make sure you give yourself time. Week 8, this is where things are going to pick up, you guys. This is where if you are behind, it's going to be a mess. The semester project, I have a loss run data set that is sort of I got it from like a friend. It's like a good sample data set, and we're going to analyze it together. It's multiple years. I have to look at what he did differently, or I'm going to say what he or she did differently to it, and I may have to correct a few things. I take out any personal identifiers. So it's a clean data set to work with. It's one that I've worked with before, but I have to still look at it, and I might modify a few things for theme. But we will analyze it over a 6-week period. Each week there'll be an update you submit. If you fall behind, it's really a mess. So this was the data set from last fall. I will be creating videos to walk you through the analysis, so you don't have to really figure it out totally on your own, but you need to go through it. So this is where it's best to have a non-Apple PC with 2 screens. So a regular desktop system with 2 screens is the ideal setup for this project. It'll just make things a million times easier. I've got years of demonstration on this stuff. It's the same technique with just slight variations based on what the data is telling us. And it'll teach you to use Excel. If you don't, some of you already know you use Excel, and you'll be able to teach me a few things. So the lecture load will be much lower, or I'll make it lower so you can more focus on the project. Because the videos can be half hour, 45 minutes, depending. And sometimes students like to pause and go back and look at things. But I'll teach you as much as I can about work comp claim analysis, follow-up tracking, how to convince management. Yeah, so that's what I have. So that's week 7, week 8. Things are going to be picking up here. If you got questions, let me know. And I will start setting up regular office hours when we start the project, because a lot of students want to come in and kind of get more insight or more explanation, or I can help work out a bug that you accidentally typed into one of the cells. So, all right, that's it. Keep up the good work, everybody. If you need to talk to me, just let me know. If you're wondering how you can do better, like on the weekly assignments, you provide more input, more insight. Some of you are killing it. You're getting 10 out of 10. Others not so much. For the quiz, you should be able to, if you watch the lectures, I do tend to favor certain themes and topics. You should have noticed this already. If you haven't, check it out, and you'll see how I think if you really listen to my lectures closely, you should be able to select 8 to maybe 9 of the themes for the questions based on how I stress certain things. So, all right, that's what I got.